Welcome back to another episode of Checking In. My name is Nikki Check, and I normally have guests in studio that I've met out in community, or I know something about them, and something has caught my attention, and then it prompts me to put an invitation out. I am in studio today with two ladies that I know almost nothing about, except for their names. So please welcome with me Emily Phair.
Correct. Yes.
Yes. And Adrianna Stange. Sorry?
Stange.
I have a typo on
That's
my
okay.
sheet.
It happens all the time.
And they are with the Mullings Group Search Canada.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in.
We're excited.
So I'm excited to learn a bit more. Emily, are you from Kelowna?
No. I'm originally from Toronto, and relocated here 15 years ago now with my spouse and two young children at the time for work.
Okay.
And we actually live in Vernon and have called that home for the last 15 years.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And Adrianna, you are located in Vernon as well?
I am, and I'm born and raised in the Okanagan.
Okay.
So I'm one of what feels like a few I've done all my schooling here, I've built my career here, and I've never had a reason to leave.
Okanagan College?
Yes.
Yes. We look for that on resumes.
We do.
Incredible programs come out of the Okanagan College,
absolutely.
and we love to hire from there. So a Kelowna, born and raised.
Yes.
Love it. Welcome.
Thank you.
So can you tell me, Emily, generally about what TMG Search Canada does?
Sure. I'd be glad to. By way of introduction, my background is all in executive search and in talent acquisition. I've been doing it for over 2 decades. And I found the Mullings Group with a previous venture that I'd been involved in with the founder, Joe Mullings. And over the course of time, became into partnership. It's an executive search firm. It's global. Our head office is based in Delray, West Palm Beach, Florida. Not a bad place to vacation or to spend time working. And we now have offices across the US, the UK, Australia, and as of this year, Canada. So my role in this is to lead the Canadian business for growth in all things talent.
That's huge. So let's start dissecting that. Is the role that you have in finding the talent and filling the positions, those executive positions, or is that where team comes in? And are you looking at growing the Canadian division? And
Yes.
Which hat do you wear?
All of the above. Very good question. So it's important to say we are a heavily team-based environment globally. The folks that we partner with, even in our Delray office, it's just like we're sitting here at the table together. My function is to do equally as much as bringing in recognition to clients and businesses and the individuals who are looking for work as it is to grow our Canadian operation. Adrianna is sitting literally right beside me. Her role, which I'll let her, of course, explain herself, is on the fulfillment side. She's more candidate-facing right now. I'm client-facing. And really the reason why we decided to set boots on the ground here, other than the fact we both live here, is the thriving economic reality, which is the Okanagan. There are so many growing companies. We're so focused on the growth and supporting and giving back to the community in those ways. And that's where we've decided to start our business. But the dream is to grow it globally and across Canada.
So I find that so fascinating. We and often on this series, I'm talking about the transition, and you would have seen it in the 15 years. You would have seen it from beaches to peaches, and all of a sudden we have incredible sectors and industries that are choosing to have head offices here. We're growing companies. You look at Hexagon, and I'm like, So you have your operation here, and so we're seeing people choose to bring their businesses here, and I can't imagine how difficult it is to fulfill some of those higher level executive positions.
Across the board, it's tricky. Absolutely. I really learned the value and what was happening here in this region when we relocated here from Toronto, and I joined Tire. And that's when I really began to understand the beauty of having a massive billion-dollar company sitting in this region, and how to attract talent and how to tell those stories and to bring the people in for the roles. And so that's where I learned a lot about the storytelling and how to grow organically here locally. And then that opened up a whole new bunch of opportunities with Adrianna, who was my number 2 hire at Tire. Yeah.
I'm stealing your water
because
I'm going to start coughing. Adrianna, can you tell me what your role is at TMG?
Yeah, absolutely. So my title is a managing consultant, and I come alongside entrepreneurs and clients of every sector and size to help them fulfill their talent advisory needs. So we have everything from global organizations with Canadian headquarters who come to us and say, we want to expand and we need someone to help us fulfill these roles. Or we get entrepreneurs who have done very well, they're owner-operators, but they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know anything beyond that they need help. And so we come in and we help them build processes, we help them identify the talent, the titles, the compensation bands that they should be looking for. And a huge part of our role in the Okanagan is the relocation piece. So as you mentioned, C-suite level talent, there's a narrow pool that's already based here. So we do a lot of work relocating people to the Okanagan. And we have about 25 years of combined Okanagan recruitment experience together. So we know what it takes to transplant a family successfully, and not giving them the touristic perspective of what it's like, but the school systems, the beaches, what are you going to do when everything's closed at 6 p.m. on a Sunday? What does your family like to do?
Do not need nails at 6 p.m. on Sunday.
No,
not here.
No.
It's different than a Toronto or a Vancouver, and we're based here and we're really proud of being here, and we like to support entrepreneurs who are here, and we know what it takes to relocate someone.
I have a tickle in my throat and it's really throwing me.
That's okay.
I did not read the article, and I should have read the article on Kelowna Now. It was talking about the challenge, and it may have been for a younger demographic around living in this region, in this area. And we're seeing a lot of immigration or migration out of Kelowna into Alberta.
Right.
Is that, so again, you're at the executive level. Is that not a consideration? Cost of living?
I'll course correct a little. We do say we're an executive search firm. That's a bit of a catch-all phrase now in terms of recruiting and what we do. Our firm really does support a variety of industries, from individual contributor all the way up the chain to the C-suite, and we play actively in all those different areas. The places that we don't typically recruit for now are on the skilled trade or the entry-level positions. That's a different niche for recruiting. So to answer your question, it's funny, we see a lot of coming and going, and the transients still for sure within the Okanagan. I would say that transplanting across or the relocating across to Alberta could be either industry reasons why, or people have the opportunity now to work from wherever. You know, the hybrid workforce, the hybrid model is here to stay for at least for a while. And people can now work in the Okanagan and live with their family back in Alberta. So cost of living is a factor here. Absolutely. It is expensive in British Columbia. And so, yeah, we do see people relocating on those means. But at the same time, we're still in this real flux and indecisiveness in the industry and the workforce itself, where some companies choose to have people on site 5 days a week. Other companies are completely flexible. So our roles have been really dynamic over the last 32 months, that's for sure.
Actually, I do want to springboard off that. So I think the workforce in general has absolutely changed, and I think companies are struggling, and some are taking it and running with it. So is there advice that you can give to businesses in consideration of putting together a position or an offering that is the best of both worlds, that meets the needs of the employer and the employee? Because it is challenging.
It's challenging, and it's uncharted. Do you want to take a stab at that one first, or would you?
No,
like me
go
to?
for it.
Sure.
I'll add in.
The messaging really is, and it started a few years ago with career branding and the heightened awareness around companies having to tell a story about their own brand to attract individuals in. This was pre-pandemic. Everything has shifted since then, of course. And so now really what we're seeing is the individuals who are seeking new opportunities and who will remain engaged want to know who they will become when they get to the new company. It's equally as important to understand what the job is and what the skills that they need are to grow, to develop, but it's also incredibly important to the individuals, especially in the younger generations, to feel that connectivity to the company for the long term. Is the company giving back? Is the company sustainable? How do they treat their employees in terms of flex time? It's more than just, check healthcare benefits. And so it really has become a very, very changed and diverse landscape in that way. So the advice I would give is, from the employer side, when you're going to market and talking about opportunities, really be aware of who you are as a company, what your persona is, what you're offering, and what those people will get when they get there.
Anything you want to add?
Well said. I would say for most organizations that they really need to personalize it. It's hard to say if you're looking for a marketing manager, for example. It really depends on the sector that you're in and the level of seniority that you're looking for. We've been doing a lot of workshops lately around intergenerational workforces, and that for the first time in history, we've got 5 generations working together, with 2 of those generations coming in and leaving. But for the first time, we're seeing 5 very different perspectives. They've lived through very different economic times, different traumas surrounding our landscape. And so when they come to work, they want something different, and they're leaving with different expectations. And so it's hard to give a blanket statement or blanket advice. And that's one of the benefits of working with a search firm like ours, is we give you real-time data. A lot of our entrepreneurs, they've never hired before, or they've never done this level of seniority before. They'll say, we want someone in management, but we don't really know what would be an attractive offer for them. So we walk them through, well, this is the salary band based on current market data. This is how many weeks of vacation you should expect to give. Here are some other perks that you may not be aware of that are very competitive for your sector, such as mechanical work at a discount, or free parking, or whatever may be specific to their industry. But we really like that one-on-one coaching with our clients to share what would be an attractive story to share with the market.
So now I'm going to ask you something that you can just choose not to answer. Really, there's and I want to word this properly, and I'm not going to do it justice. So when I'm looking, or when we're working with different businesses, we're looking at how many more of those bottles of cream can you create. So
right.
we're often working with quantities of, can you get more? How quickly can you get it if this goes to market? So you're in the business of people, the commodity of people.
Right.
I know we're seeing, again, this is going to be during the pandemic and post-pandemic, we're seeing early retirement. We're seeing numbers that are frightening in people that are choosing to just not continue working. Again, those numbers coming out of healthcare are frightening. So how how challenging is it for you to find quality
talent
candidates and talent for these companies? Because you're all vying for that talent pool, right? It must be limited.
It is, and so I'll answer it this way, because that's a lot.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I'll take the first part of that, which is just to dovetail on what Adrianna was talking about, that multi-generational workforce.
Fascinating.
That mindset is a fixed versus growth mindset that we educate both clients and individuals on daily. And what I mean by that is for the clients that are, to your point, trapped in a talent shortage, if they are, then there's always going to be people. And it's, let's shift gears and shift our mindset from a fixed to a growth in an innovative and creative solution to where are they, or what is it that we don't necessarily need or we do need in that position. So yeah, for sure. Some industries are staggeringly in crisis. Healthcare, yes, absolutely, and we play in that space. Other industries are just, the talent is not where it used to be, or the talent is now calling the shots because for a long time their compensation plans weren't what they felt they were. Like, there's so many different components to it. So our role is to identify what problem the client is trying to solve and then creatively work with them to mitigate it. And hence the reasons why we're here. We spend a lot of time recruiting in small communities and across BC and Canada, in places where they didn't think talent would ever be possible. I was asked to find a president of a very successful manufacturing business whose head office is located in Tisdale, Saskatchewan. And it was looked at like, you're probably never going to find this person. And we did. And it's just finding solutions and creating that trust with the client until you get what they need.
I mean, bless you and bless TMG, but I just don't know how you can do that. So that's very, very impressive.
Well, I think, the world of recruiting, and we it's a giant pool, and yes, it's shrinking. Absolutely. I mean, the 5 generations are quickly becoming 4. The baby boomers, the traditionalists, that top line category has almost all retired, but now we're seeing a resurgence of the retirees retirement. And so they're coming back into that workforce in a different capacity, whether it be through volunteer work or short-term fractional workforce. I mean, we could probably do another podcast just about those 5 gens. Adrianna, as she mentioned, we've done a lot of education and work on it. But really what it comes down to is recruiting has a rigorous process. And the reason why we are here and what we do is because we know the process. But behind the process is that human element. And it's about this. It's about having genuine, authentic conversations with people and understanding where the needs are and being there to liaise it.
So with the remote work that is happening, this actually could give you a larger pool to draw from, correct? I mean, if we look at, and it's interesting because again, if we look at, and I'm going to be a little bit facetious, if we look at the HVAC industry, there were 2 or 3 or 4 companies that started in Kelowna, and they were absolutely the bulls in the pasture. They got all the work, they got all the contracts. It was, who knows who, you want the job, and work just went on. As the city grew and as things have changed and processes and systems and efficiencies and styles, and I love this intergenerational piece because I see it often in real estate, mom and daughter, and daughters, that's not how you do it. That's not, you could make it so much easier. So the generational differences are grand. They're great. They're significant. And so I think the ability to bridge those or have understanding in those is necessary. And I think again, going back to the HVAC, you see the companies coming in and winning jobs and getting sales and business because they are doing it differently. So then it puts at risk the larger companies that were here. So I think the question that I'm getting at is, I think businesses and organizations need to adapt, be willing to adapt to the different employment or recruitment landscape that is out there, or you're going to be in big trouble. And
truthfully, and chime in on this one because you were a really big part of that. The mandate at Cal Tire that basically I led was how do we hire fast and furiously for a very short time period twice a year. That business is heavily weighted on of course, on the winter selling season and the spring selling season, where we had to ramp up in volumes of thousands across the country in a matter of weeks. And I won't bore everyone with the process of how we did it, but we were able to work with our internal team members and hiring managers and talk about new creative ways to go to market and to tell that story in a unique way that would capitalize on what you said. It used to just be, hey, who do you know? Well, if that talent pool is shrinking, especially in that skilled trade area, how do you stand out above the rest? And that's the message when it comes to any kind of recruiting, is how do you tell your story more excitedly than your competitors?
Yeah, and that was a huge partnership with our marketing team as well, getting people to envision themselves as a tire technician, because no one grows up wanting to be one for the most part. And one of the benefits of what we do at the Mullings Group is we are the only search firm in the world that has our own in-house media and marketing division. So our corporate office is in Florida, as Emily mentioned, and we've got a full in-house studio that we leverage here in Canada. So our clients who don't have their own management or their own marketing, they can leverage the tools that we have, the podcasts we have, to get to a much wider audience.
Yeah, that's it. I'm glad you kind of full circled on that one. Good for bringing that into it, because really that's the differentiator in what we do. Again, back to the storytelling. Yes, we're recruiters first, but we're storytellers as well. And Joe Mullings, who is the founder of the Mullings Group, and who is my business partner on the Canadian side, has built an incredible vision around how you marry media, digital, this type of a platform for the benefit of the client, who then in turn learns how to tell the story and then comes back for us to help support them and to build it with them. So it's unique.
So Emily, I have a question for you from a business perspective. Did you find Joe or did Joe find you? How did this come to be?
That's a good question.
In Vernon.
I know.
Global.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious.
So it was the middle of COVID, and I had through a network mutual person that we knew was introduced to him. I was looking for a new job. I had left Cal Tire at that point. He, while still running the Mullings Group, was also sitting as Chief Vision Officer for an international franchise recruiting business. And his role in that was to build the sales and marketing and to essentially pull a business who had been failing into positive.
Yep.
And so he got handed my resume. There's actually a pretty funny video about it. I'll send it to you later, that we podcasted ourselves. But he was handed my resume and said, what am I going to do with this person? She's in Canada. And 20 minutes later after the phone call, I was essentially hired. And so to answer your question, I basically hunted my way in to have a conversation with him, saw the vision of what he was doing, became his right hand at that business. We took it, rebuilt it, and in 20 months took it through to acquisition. And then afterwards said, now what? And the rest is history. But to your point, during those months, and we chuckle about it now, if COVID hadn't happened, that never would have happened. And so in a grand scheme of things, it made talent borderless for a long time, or long enough to have those creative conversations that never would have happened otherwise. And we're still kind of there. Like we're remote enough, we're hybrid enough that we see it all the time in recruiting where we align candidates and clients that typically never would have. So yeah, it was a great story.
I think there's more there. That'll be another. That'll be another one.
Yeah.
Adrianna and Emily, thank you so much for coming into the studio.
Thank
I
you.
enjoyed learning and hearing about what you're doing and the impact that you are absolutely having a positive impact in the region. I have no doubt. And I thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.
Pleasure.